Greetings, historians. I'm not a historian, and this is not history. I hope you enjoyed the third video on Cyrus the Great. Welcome to What If Germany Won World War I. World War I was known as the war to end all wars. I consider it to be the last medieval war because although it was far from medieval, it was the last war of monarchs, the last war of European empires, and the last war of tradition. It was the war to end what I call the Second European Age, the first age being the age of Rome, Carthage, and later the Frankish Empire, ending it, the second age being the age of medieval kingdoms and industry, and the third age of diplomacy and technology that we have only seen the start of. This is shown by America's involvement in the war, asserting themselves as the dominant world power. This almost certainly lost Germany the war, and this single action ended the second age of Europe. So what if America never joined the war? America mainly joined because Germany restarted sinking all ships, including American ones. But what if they didn't? And what if they didn't send the Zimmerman telegram to Mexico suggesting they invade the US? What if the war was entirely isolated to Europe? Now we all know what the First World War was, so let's get straight into it and see what would happen. So it's 1918 and Paris has fallen. America never joined the war, and it is just hurting their economy, so they encourage Britain to sign a peace treaty. Britain and Portugal are the only Entente members left, but London has no interest in surrender until the assassination of David Lloyd George, after which Parliament scrambles to sign something with Germany. The treaty ends up like this, so let's dive into it. Where better to start than France? France was hit hard by the First and Second World Wars in our timeline, but they are nothing compared to what France goes through in this universe. France gets northern territories taken by Germany and the Belgian puppet state. Paris fell in November of 1918. Soon after the rest of France surrendered, the government was overthrown and replaced by Philippe Pétain's pro-German government. Poverty would be rampant, especially in the south of France, causing workers' unions to start a revolution, eventually evolving into a communist movement, capturing Vichy and declaring itself the Democratic People's Republic of France. Although they never recognized each other as legitimate governments, neither side invaded the other, until the north bombed south supply lines caused the communists to invade until the gates of Paris. This made Germany recognize the south and trade with them if it renamed itself to the Democratic People's Republic of Occitania, which it obliged. France would become nothing but a puppet of Germany because the Germans were scared that if the French were given any freedom they would revolt. Occitania would become the biggest thorn in Germany's side in Europe at least. Both governments were more alike than they thought. They both punish free speech, they both have mandatory service, they both are one-party governments, and they both have extreme poverty. But let's change the channel to the UK. The UK may be the Entente member that got off the best, especially out of the big three. The UK and Portugal were the last of the Entente left at the end of the war, and they were the ones who negotiated with Germany and signed the peace treaty. The UK would have to pay reparations and take responsibility for starting the war. It would also have to demilitarize, causing Ireland to declare independence with Britain not being able to do anything. Ireland would become a mainly Catholic state, oppressing the Protestants, causing a civil war that would easily be won by the Catholics, with the Protestants fleeing to Scotland and the dominions of the British Empire. Being the cousin of the Kaiser, George VI became in essence the Wilhelm's man in Britain, imposing laws that the Kaiser wants and making announcements for him. The people of the UK knew that he couldn't stop Wilhelm, as he would negotiate anything with Germany to help his people. The UK would keep their government and democratic elections, but with a new pro-German party. Speaking of cousins of the Kaiser, the Russian Empire in World War I was extremely poor. The people opposed to the war, and there were only 9 guns for every 10 soldiers. The Germans were also advancing fast through the west of Russia. All if this resulted in the Russian Revolution, deposing Nicholas II and setting up a new government that is eventually overthrown by the communists, who then signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. In our timeline, most of this territory was reclaimed from 1921 to 1945, especially in the Second World War. However, in this timeline, the Germans would protect the so-called independence of these nations. This means that Russia would lose 1/4 of their population and most of their farms and oil. This would cause another Russian revolution, replacing the communists with a white Russian government who would be more open to foreign trade and would do the best they could for the people. Russia's main trading partners would be Germany and the United States of Austria, Hungary and Bosnia. They would pay the Germans and Austrians for the food and resources they once had. Many people would die, and most others wouldn't be very happy, but
The country would stabilize sometime in the near future with a more democratic and industrial government. Also, did you catch that? A few seconds back I said, the United States of Austria-Hungary and Bosnia. Well, let's talk about that. Austria-Hungary would only annex a small amount of land in Italy. The rest of its changes would be political and economical. Austria would share the spoils of the Mittle Europa Economic Union, including countries such as Germany, Austria, Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, Lithuania, Livonia, and Belgium. Inside Austria would be where the most change happens. Charles would want his people to be happy. So although he is still the emperor, he sets up 3 presidencies inside the empire, being Austria, Hungary, and Bosnia. Inside these presidencies would be states. The states are the following: Austria, Slovenia, Bohemia, and Galicia in Austria, Hungary, Slovakia, and Transylvania in Hungary, and Bosnia, Croatia, and Vojvodina in Bosnia. This would give more power to the minorities in the empire and place support behind Charles, who gets elected as the first Austrian president alongside Mihály Károlyi in Hungary. Overall, Hungary becomes a more democratic, more liberal, and a richer country. It becomes a sanctuary of different nationalities, ethnicities, and religions. But just to the north, Austria's greatest ally is quite the opposite, so why don't we discuss the namesake of the video, the main character, the German Empire. Germany is probably the country that got the most out of the war. More than any Entente member in our timeline, they get land from multiple countries, became the most important member of an economic union that spans most of Europe, and get reparations from some of the richest countries in Europe. Germany now runs Europe under the rule of the Kaiser. Germany and Germans in general would not be too kind to the French, Belgium, and Dutch citizens, with every language apart from German would be strictly prohibited, and Germans getting medical and job preference. Germany would control most governments in Europe and form the European Union, a mutual defense pact with the members of Germany, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Poland, Finland, Ukraine, Belarus, Livonia, Lithuania, Austria, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire. Wilhelm would also become king of many European countries, and he would also force the Pope to crown him Roman Emperor, reforming the Holy Roman Empire, including Germany, Poland, Belgium, the Netherlands, Livonia, and Lithuania. Speaking of Rome's successor states, the Ottomans were seen as the sick old man of Europe, losing a Balkan War, losing Egypt to the British, and the First World War just cemented that image, but obviously they don't lose in this timeline. They would gain land in the Caucasus from Brest-Litovsk, regain prominence in the Middle East, and get war reparations from the Entente. Look, it's another country that lost a Balkan War, straight ahead. Humiliated by the Second Balkan War, Bulgaria sought to regain lost lands, and the First World War was the perfect opportunity to get back at Serbia. Clearly this never happened, and Bulgaria was further humiliated and stripped of more land by the Serbs and Greeks. But we're not here to learn about what actually happened. We're here to see what would happen if Bulgaria won. Bulgaria would annex all of Macedonia and the east of Serbia, also gaining reparations from the Entente. Finally, after hundreds of old territories being occupied by other countries, the Bulgars have reclaimed their supposedly rightful territories. It's probably about time we visited another country with a red, white, and green flag. Italy was part of the Triple Alliance with Germany and Austria in May 1882. This inspired the French to create the Triple Entente. These alliances were one of the
main reasons that World War I started, but Italy did not join the war until 1915, and they joined on the side of the Entente, a decision that ended up paying off, but evidently it would not in this universe. Italy would not suffer much compared to the likes of France and Russia, but it would lose some northern territories and also be forced to pay reparations to the Central Powers. Germany would feel betrayed by Italy, but Austria would seek to rekindle their relationship, so would forgive almost all of their debts to Austria. Italy would also start the West European Economic Community to rival the European Union. This community would include Italy, Spain, Portugal, UK, Sweden, and Ireland. The rivalry would eventually economically benefit both unions and help with worldwide trade. Isn't it strange that Italy isn't named after Rome? You know what is, though? Romania was on the Entente side in the First World War, almost doubling its area by gaining land from both sides, but in this universe it would only gain Bessarabia from the fallen Russian Empire. Now this video is a part 1, part 2 will be about the rest of the world, so stay tuned for that.
by subscribing and ringing the notification bell. We'll see you next time on Not History.